Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore. This is technically a 420 episode, but my edible hasn't kicked in, so no Doctor Strange robe, no baked sushi tonight, but if things get a little weird, it's technically a 420 review. Also, season premiere review, had my darksaber. I'm very stupid, because I forgot I own this. I have the Mandalorian helmet. I remembered it, thank goodness, Bo-Katan was in this so much, and I was like, oh, I can put that in my review, and then I was like, dang, I had that, for the premiere. I could have had my Mandalorian helmet and the darksaber. Could have done it this time too, but I already got my lights and stuff set up. I was like, I'm not gonna do that edit. So got the helmets. At the very least, the Mandalorian helmet will be here pretty much every episode. But based on this episode, which I loved, we might be seeing a whole lot of Bo-Katan. And that's amazing. So I was very happy with this episode because, for one, I mentioned in my premiere review, I was like, you know, classic thing is like, I'm going to do this. And that's what you want to see the whole season. And it takes the whole season. And I'm very happy that it was like, this is what I want to do. It's like, cool. How many episodes is that going to take? One episode. He did it in this one. And they were like, all right, well, he did that. He's redeemed. You know, all he has to do is fly back or whatever. He's redeemed. Everything's good there. That was the main crux of what he was doing. That was his journey. And they're like, it's done. That's it. It's over. Also, here's a mythosaur. That was insane. It was a fantastic episode, top to bottom. I absolutely loved it. I know some people had an issue with it being dark. IGN gave it a 5 out of 10. I was like, I need to add a couple of zeros. This was a 500 out of 10 episode. That was really good though. Honestly, like from beginning to end, you know, it was cool. You know, went back to Tatooine. We got to see R5 is now, yeah, at least temporarily. Like, we'll see what happens with the IG unit. I think quite a few people have mentioned it. It's like, he wants the IG unit really bad, but it still doesn't make sense because they're like, if we repair it, it's basically still going to be a new droid. Like, there's, like, they even say that, you know, basically in the last episode. So he's still trying. I'm sure they'll figure out some way to magically save him, and you know, it'll be fine. It'll still be him a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. But he gets R5, which I did not know this. R5 is the same R5 from the original Star Wars film, where he was the droid that Luke was going to buy, and then he short circuits, and that's why they end up getting R2-D2. So I was like, huh, I did not realize that. Obviously that's been the thing. People knew that basically since, you know, R5 came in. I don't know, I'm pretty sure he's been in multiple episodes unless I'm crazy. But that was a cool one. That, you know, I wouldn't know that if I hadn't watched some reviews beforehand. So figured I'd give you guys that little nugget of knowledge. Also, in apparently a non-canon story, the droid is actually a Jedi, and he knew that R2 needed to go with Luke, and so he like short circuits on purpose. That's a non-canon story, but it's out there. So I thought that was funny. He was a Jedi droid. So I was like, all right, that's a, you know, cool reference that I wouldn't have gotten had I not watched other nerds talk about the show. So that was really cool. But I didn't need all that. It doesn't matter. Epic reference aside, we go to Mandalore. And now, like, the whole last episode, I was kind of like, man, it could, you know, if the darksaber could just, like, you know, drop on the ground and pop open, I'm happy. This was a darksaber episode, and not only did we get to see the darksaber once, but twice, and each time was by a separate person. That was crazy. Like, we got to see Din do it, and you know, he's effing up. He pulls it out, and it's just like a sledgehammer. He's like, ah, man, but he survived. You know, he was taking his hits in here and there, but he was taking them down. It's like, all right, he did his thing. Got to see the darksaber. That's really cool. That's really great. He gets captured. Grogu has to go to Bo-Katan, who's like doing her thing, and you know, instead of doing like the crazy, you know, I own this lounge, she's just doing like the depressed lounge, just, you know, head straight down. And so she goes with him. Amazing ship, by the way. Like, her ship looks super cool. It reminded me of like the Jedi starfighters that Anakin and Obi-Wan had in episode 3. But way cooler than that. So loved her ship. I was like, this ship it looks sick. Like, it looks really good. So I loved her ship. I like her whole costume. Like, I think her costume just looks really cool. They have, like, she gets kind of like some of the leather and stuff that you would get from the cowboy aesthetic. So she, you know, with her dual wielding and stuff, she has like leather straps. Like, her costume is very interesting, and her pants are technically like almost like cowboy chaps that you would wear like riding a horse. The only reason I know this stuff is because there's a figure, like there's a 1/6 scale figure, and I really want to get that figure because I love her outfit. So hopefully one day I'll actually have that out. You know, maybe she'll be up here, like Mando was last time. But it was great to see her. Great to see her in action. You know, she goes with Grogu. She's talking to him like, you know, I used to know a bunch of Jedi. She's like, this place used to be sick. It's like, you know, if you watch Clone Wars, it's like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is this thing and stuff. Like, it's really cool to watch. So absolutely loved it, because this is honestly, this was the episode that really ties into why I love Mandalorians more than anything else in Star Wars. It's because, you know, Dave Filoni is the guy who did, you know, Clone Wars, and so he just kind of made up stuff when it came to the Mandalorians, and it was like, yeah, Boba Fett's super cool, nobody knows anything about him. What if we did this? So, you know, the Jango Fett Boba Fett connection, and then he was like, oh, Mandalorians, I'll take that and run with it. Some of the best stuff in Star Wars, hands down, is the Mandalorian stuff. And if you have not watched Clone Wars, I highly recommend it. Like, all the stuff there's stuff that's not referenced. There's a specific character that doesn't get referenced, like Bo-Katan references her father, but there's somebody else that we've actually met before, and she's in Clone Wars, and it's amazing. So watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels, because they do something else in there that's amazing, and then watch the end of Clone Wars. There's so much Mandalorian stuff, and it's all Dave Filoni that did that. And it's like, man, this episode really ties into the beginning of what made me love the Mandalorians. You know, seeing Death Watch, and honestly, the first time I ever saw the darksaber, obviously Clone Wars. And when it first showed up, I was like, that's what I've always wanted, a black lightsaber. And I think maybe, because I cannot remember when this game came out, but The Force Unleashed may have come out before Clone Wars, or at least that chunk of Clone Wars, but Clone Wars probably came out first. Either way, both of those had it. And I think technically the game did have it first, and they hadn't had the darksaber out, but you could change the color of your lightsabers, and one of them was basically black, but it had a white outline to it. And I was like, that's so cool. That's like the sweetest thing ever. So I always have my lightsabers look like that. And then the show came out, and it was like, there's an actual black saber, and it's not like a lightsaber. It's more like an actual katana. At the time, I wasn't like obsessed with katanas like I am now, but I knew it looked amazing, and it was black, and it had like little white lightning cracks through it. And I was like, this thing is so cool. And now we have it live action, and it's so freaking cool. So I love the way it was done. It was a great episode that connected back to the origins of what makes, you know, Mandalorian my favorite thing in Star Wars. So that was really fun to see. And then of course the actual action was really good. We got like the super creepy monster with one eye, which wasn't a cyclops. It was specifically like a human being's eye, where you could tell it was either the left eye or the right eye. And that does make a difference. It was interesting looking at it. And I think when I first watched the episode, it didn't really catch on. Like I could tell something was wrong. And then it was like people, you know, watching other reviews where they mentioned that it was a left eye and right eye. And I was like, that's what it was. And then when I saw it, when I watched the episode a second time, it was like, just even looking for that, it still makes it creepier. Like when I understand why it's so creepy, it's like, it does look weird because it's clearly not meant to be one eye by itself. Like you can tell that the eye is like the left eye of someone or something's head formerly that is now just an eyeball and a little bit of brain. And it's like, that's very interesting. Love the design on the creature. You know, like it freaked me out when it first happened. He picks up the helmet, and then boom, he's captured. It's like, you know, this whole episode, it's like, you know, calm and collected, and it's like, wow, exploring the ruins of Mandalore. Picks up an old ruined helmet, and, you know, think he's gonna keep going along his journey. He's seeing more Mandalorian things that he's never known in their glory. And it's like, no, he's getting captured by a giant crab droid. And that was crazy. And then the thing comes out and it's got like spikes and stuff. I thought it was gonna be like kind of a wolf-like creature, and then it was like, oh no, it's just got a couple spikes and stuff, but it's mostly like tubes and, you know, spindly metal. And it was like, that's sweet. I love the design. It was creepy. Like the way it came out was like on all fours, but then it was like, all right, I don't need to, you know, look out for anything. And then it just started to walk normally, and I was like, huh, creepy, and I love it. So it was very cool. Led to an amazing couple of moments with Bo-Katan where, you know, of course her whole thing is just being amazing anyway. So she takes out the Amorites or Amalettes, one of those two things she called them, takes them out. Like she can tell that they're above her, boom, shoots them out. She loses her guns super fast, and I was like, oh, that sucks. But then the whole rest of the fight scene was super sweet because she kept using that little arm blade like an assassin, you know, in Assassin's Creed or something. And I was like, okay, that was really cool. I wanted to see her like do some cool dual wielding and stuff more. But then the action was like, oh no, that was actually really sick. Like she's like flipping and flying, you know, like using the whip and stuff, which of course we get to the end fight sequence, and she's, you know, she's getting hit. Like we find out that the spear isn't just like a little jabbing spear, like shoots out lightning. And it was like, yeah, I don't think anyone would have seen that one coming. So she got caught off guard with that. And then, you know, she's getting zapped in the back, and it's like, there's the darksaber, whips that bad boy and picks it up. And it was just the coolest thing ever. And she takes him down in an instant. She also uses the Mandalorian shield. There's getting a lot of play in this, which is pretty cool. Which I believe was I think that was canonically introduced in Star Wars Rebels, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's orange in Rebels because Sabine has it. Yeah, it's blue now, but I feel like hers was orange. Maybe I'm just thinking of her hair and her costume, but I think it was orange. Probably wrong. But it was great to see that, where, you know, she has like the sword and the mini shield, takes him out in a split second. It's like, all right, then I'm here to save you. Then he's like, look out. She does a quick dodge, chops some arms off, cuts the head off. I think technically she stabbed it in the head first to like fully kill it, and then she chopped the head off like the mech so it couldn't like go wild, and then it officially dies out. And I was like, that was amazing. And also an amazing juxtaposition between the characters, because Dan obviously still has the issue of not truly being able to wield it and it being too heavy for him, and then Bo-Katan picks it up, is like, like I done held this thing 100 million times, and she's just like whipping around this junk, no problem. It's like super easy. And I was like, that's very cool. And it was an amazing action moment for her character, which, you know, she's always super cool. They even introduced that when she first comes into the show, and it's like you have 3 Mandalorians, and they're just like a unit. Like every time she fights, we see how crappy Din is, and it's the most amazing thing, because every time Din fights, he's like whooping butt. Like he'll take some hits and stuff, but it's like, man, he's really destroying these people. And this episode specifically, it didn't look like that, because of course he was using a darksaber, so it was weighing him down. But you know, he still came out on top. It was just a struggle. And with Bo-Katan, there was no struggle. She lost her guns in an instant, and it's like, okay, I can do hand-to-hand combat. That's no big deal. And it's just doing like combos and stabbing people and hitting them, you know, with the leg trips and stuff. And like, it makes you really see it in perspective. Like, he's cool, but then she's amazing. And it's just funny watching it, because I'm like, I always think he does a great job. It looks cool. He takes some hits, but it's like, yeah, people take hits. And then she doesn't. That's the thing. She comes in like an assassin, and it's just, boom, you're gone. Everything works because she's a Mandalorian, and it's like, that's it. That's all there is to it. She's like, you know, peak Mandalorian. The Mandalorians come in, they destroy, they leave. And that's her right now. And it was super cool. So amazing action sequence. They have a bit of a conversation about the creed and Bo-Katan's father, and Din says, you know, like when she says that he sacrificed himself for Mandalore, he's like, this is the way. And they start building this connection. Like in that scene for sure, he says that, and it's like, huh. That's like, you know, there are 2 paths coming together again, where he's still on like the super religious sect of it, and she's not so much. But that little moment where it was like, he still believes in the creed, even if they're on opposite sides, he doesn't really see it that way, because he's genuinely just trying to be like, let's get everybody together, let's be cool. So I like the way that was handled. And then of course they get to the waters, and she hears him basically saying the creed. I think they do in this episode what they did in the last one, which was when he went to the armorer. In that whole sequence, you could kind of tell she's like, I'm looking at a man who's about to, you know, lead the Mandalorians. And I feel like they did that again in this one. I feel like it was more obvious in this one compared to that, where it was like, she kind of was like, all right, cool, if you can prove it, then whatever. But it's like, obviously, this dude has the darksaber. What if he succeeds? And then we have, you know, the new great ruler of Mandalore. And that was definitely done in this episode for sure with Bo-Katan, where it's like, you know, their creeds kind of come together again. He's saying like, this is the way in order to honor her father. He's saying the original creed and stuff like that, and she's kind of looking at him like, yeah, I still miss my people, and I miss stuff. You know, there's still things that I do miss, and I want everyone together. And then of course he gets dragged down in the water by the mythosaur, I would assume. That was one of the things for sure. Even when I watched it, I was like, kind of weird. Like, first off, he went like a million miles away in half a second. Like, she instantly jumped in the water, and he was like a million miles away. And then, and this has been brought up in reviews, but it was like the one thing that was super hard to miss. Why did it drag him down? It was just like, it pulled him down, and then he was just on the ground. I was about to say on the water, but obviously underwater. So it was weird. It was definitely weird. It was like he got grabbed and then just boom, slammed into the ground instantaneously. And the mythosaur is just there, because she doesn't get attacked by something else that's in the water. So the only thing we have to go on is like the mythosaur just grabbed a dude just because. I guess it was like this, and like plucked his tiny finger. Considering how big the thing is, it would be like a rancor. It would have to like use the tip of its fingers to do that. Because I guess we don't know the full body of the mythosaur, but they definitely make it seem more like, oddly enough, a lot like a rancor. So it seems more like bipedal versus just being like a weird squid sort of deal. It's like a dinosaur. So it was interesting to just be like, okay, I pulled him down, but why? So that was like the one little nitpick for me personally. But other than that, I love the episode. Like, you know, she's flying up, and it's like, boom, there's the mythosaur, and she sees the eye open up, and it's just like, man, I think we knew it. For those who watch Boba Fett, you knew it when they were like, you know, it was said that there's, you know, the leader will one day ride the mythosaur. I was like, he's gonna ride a mythosaur 100%. Like, as soon as she said that crap, and it's like, you know, the legends say this, I was like, they're doing an effing mythosaur. I'm like, this is gonna be crazy. And then they do it. They're like, yep, if you figured it, here it is. So it's the first step. I assume they go to the armorer, because at this point it's like, you know, regardless of the creeds or any of that stuff, Bo-Katan is like, look, I saw enough in Mythosaur, like we need to talk. Like everybody needs to kind of get in the huddle because she saw Mythosaur. It's like we need to have a conversation. It does not matter what you think or believe. There's some things that probably need to be discussed amongst all Mandalorians right now. So I would assume they're going to see the armor in next week's episode because they have a lot to discuss right now. And of course, Din instantly is like I said, one episode, he had a journey. I got to go to Mandalore to redeem myself. He went to Mandalore and he redeemed himself. Plus they saw the Mythosaur. So now anything is happening. Hopefully not too much on the pirate guy. I'll admit I don't want to see him next week. I want them to have a conversation about what do the Mandalorians do. But I feel like that pirate dude is 100% coming in an episode and it could be cool. But I feel like he's going to take away from what I really want to see. So I hope we don't see that guy next week. I hope they get right to the armor and things move. And maybe like in like 3 or 4 episodes, they could do like a pseudo filler action episode. Be totally fine. But I need like a lot of exposition. And I need to see where the story is headed because I was super hyped at the end of this one. Like they have an actual Mythosaur. He's already redeemed himself. So he's accepted by his people. He can train again with the darksaber. Bo-Katan might actually train him after what they just went through and like her, I guess, lack of faith in a sense is kind of shaken, and we just see how that ends up playing out. Like I think their whole point is that they're gonna kind of lead together a little bit, and maybe she'll convince him to be like, hey, we can be Mandalorians together, whether you believe in the ancient creeds of never taking off your helmet, or if you don't, we can find a way to coexist, you know, plain and simple. So we'll see what happens. They fight a lot, so we'll see what happens. But fantastic episode as a whole. Fantastic ending leading into the future of whatever they're going to do with the Mandalorian. Still don't have our big bad villain, so yeah, and I don't mind that, you know, just yet, but I'm very excited to see how that plays out because I just don't see this being a full-on journey unless it's the pirate dude. I guess he could be the big bad villain, so I guess we'll see about that. I guess in my head I'm like something super cool. I mean, we had a really cool guy for the last 2 seasons, so it's kind of like, pirate guy, I really hope he's not like the main big bad villain of the season. Random thing that popped in my head. So I hope it is someone else. I hope it's the Empire for sure, because that's way cooler. But love the episode. Very excited for next week. Would love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. Where are we headed? What's going to happen? Obviously, we have the Mythosaur. I would love to know your thoughts, theories, hopes, and dreams, all of that stuff. What in the world is happening in this season of The Mandalorian? Because this honestly could have gone with the first episode. It would have been an amazing like first movie, you know, not movie length, but like, you know, kind of giant episode. This would have been a phenomenal 2-parter to end on that, and they actually find it. That would have been crazy. I would have loved to have seen all of that, you know, in 1 week. That would have been sick. But still 2 great episodes as far as I'm concerned. At least I know some people weren't too, you know, too up on the season premiere, but I personally liked it a lot. So 2 great episodes. This one, I think I prefer this episode to that one just because of the fact that this was lore. As much as I love great action and the action was really good, this had lore and it had great action and shorter scenes for sure. Like him being in space in the last episode, that space fight, absolutely amazing. I absolutely love that. But man, I'm so biased towards the darksaber. Even him pulling the darksaber out and like, it wasn't a crappy fight, but it was a struggle fight. And then seeing it again where it was like watching the trainer, not the trainer, but the trainee. And then you see the trainer where it's like, oh, now you see why they're the teacher. And she's just, Bo-Katan was just so cool. So it's like, she has to teach him how to use the darksaber as they kind of join forces. And maybe they'll fight later on, not to the death. They'll do it in some other way. He doesn't technically have to use the darksaber. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm definitely excited for where we are headed because this was a great ending. So we'd love to know your thoughts, theories, like I said, hopes and dreams, cameos for sure. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.
You hungry? I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. You hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. Like I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Like I'm Shaggy. Man, I'm hungry. Man, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Yeah, man. You hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry.